Hello everyone, we're here today to talk about the security of a mobile app and how secure is a mobile app, particularly when there's card payments involved. If you know anything about digital payments or the digital world, there are bad guys out there and they're working hard to take away your money, disrupt your business, or even worse, make you lose your customers because they've lost trust in you. Now, there are some really big advantages to mobile apps that actually make them more secure than a website. And there's also some specific risks that Judo counteracts directly. But again, with any kind of security issue, the most important thing is that you use your own common sense around your business because you know your business well and you know the kind of signs that would signal that there's been some sort of a threat or attack to you. Let's talk about first why mobile apps in general are actually safer and more secure than a typical website, for example. The main reason, more than anything else, is that we're dealing with a very controlled ecosystem when it comes to mobile apps. The only way a vast majority of people are able to get an app is to go to the iPhone store or the Apple store and download an app, or go to Google Play and download an app from there. There are some other intermediary sites, but a vast majority of downloads come from those two sites. Within that, the phone itself is giving us a good measure of security against whether the individual was able to download that app or not. Are they a registered user in one of those ecosystems? The only exception there is if someone's done what's called jailbreaking their phone, which means it's made it open to any one of networks. And this does open a number of security problems there. But for the most part, and a vast majority of users, so 99% of people, they are downloading from these app stores. It's a controlled environment. You have a relatively safe amount of options that are going to go onto that phone, that piece of software that sits on that hardware. The second main reason that mobile apps are actually more secure than the internet is because of the feature of admin rights. And so if you are using any sort of a website through your own personal computer, you've probably set yourself up as the administrator. And you're logging in both as a user and as an administrator to your computer. And what that does is it gives the ability for a bad guy to come in and try and mess with the underlying operating system and find faults within that system to exploit. And again, because that's rarely the case with any sort of a mobile app, if not almost never, you have another layer of security that makes it harder for a bad guy to come in and access the operating system in an area where it's been opened up intentionally. I'm not going to go into the technical details here, but you can look that up yourself and see that it is generally a more secure environment. But regardless, there are three kind of main threats that you face and should think about when building and designing your app. So to help talk about that, we have these three different pieces of the ecosystem that are in place. We have the consumer, who's got their phone, their credit card, and their bank that's issued that credit card. We've got Judo as the payments provider, and if you're working with someone else, that could be any payments provider. And the bank that we work with. And then the merchant, or the business that you're buying something from, and the bank that they work with. So the first and the most important thing to counteract against is when a consumer has downloaded the app from the merchant and is entering their card details, ensuring that there's no way that those card details are accessed by another person. Those card details should go directly to a PCI Level 1 DSS secure environment. And so if you use our SDK and our APIs, it's exactly what it does. It sends those card details directly to Judo. We will then send to the merchant servers data that says, yeah, that was a successful transaction. And then that success message is passed back to the app saying, yes, good transaction. We're protecting this card data and never allowing anybody, including the merchant themselves, to see that card data. If you have a reason to see that card data, and most businesses don't, then you yourself as a merchant need to make sure that you're PCI compliant. Some basic rules are never store the full 16-digit card number. The first 6 and the last 4 are fine. The middle digits you're not allowed to store. The second piece of information is never store the CV2. And then third, when you're designing your interface, if you are not using a standard SDK or out-of-the-box UI that defines how to deal with this PCI requirement, make sure you're very careful that none of this data is touching your servers directly. So that's one kind of fraud, and actually the most common fraud, which is card data stolen when it's being submitted or over the networks. And your best prevention against that is making sure you use a tier 1 PCI DSS provider like Judo who can stop this. And there's a number of those providers out there. The second type of attack is when a bad guy creates a mimic of your app in order to collect that card detail. And so instead of the data going this way, the bad guy has created a fake app that looks a lot like yours but sends the data that way. Again, this is relatively difficult because the end user, the consumer, needs to download the app that the bad guy has put together, but there are ways it can happen. Your best methods of securing against this is to create a difficult to emulate app, and then to make sure that you have a feedback communication with your customer so that they would receive an email receipt from you, or they would get the goods or service immediately so they know something's gone wrong. And if something does go wrong, you flag it immediately. Because that one individual is easily stopped. It's when it becomes a network attack that you have a problem. The third issue is someone actually trying to hack into your own systems on this side. And what the bad actor is doing in this place is somehow trying to affect the amount, the system, the data you have on your system that ties to that consumer. Because in this closed loop, they can't get your money as a merchant. But what they can do is things like change the balance on a user's account by hacking into your systems, and a number of other things that are specific, again, to your business. And the most important way to protect against that is simple things like using SSL certificates and using basic business logic where you can't add a certain number of transactions in a single day from a person, or it has to do with what makes sense for your business. But basic security features will protect you for the most part against this. Judo's systems protect the card details, and the environment of apps in general protects you against a bad guy creating a fake app that looks like yours. So if you think of these three main situations and you use basic business consideration to ensure you're doing what you can to protect yourself here, and you've thought about things that seem abnormal, like a very large transaction, etc., then you've done the best you can to secure your mobile app. And the fact is there's a lot of easier places for these bad guys to go focus than your highly secure mobile application. And you can look at a lot of data that's been put out there recently, and I'd actually point you specifically to a special in The Economist in the issue, I think December 7th, that talks specifically about the security of mobile apps and why they are generally more secure than a website. So you don't take it just from us, you take it from a trusted expert like The Economist. Here at Judo, we're experts in security, and we spend a lot of time thinking about it internally with our systems and also consulting with our customers to make sure that they've created a protected mobile app. If you find yourself in a position where you're not sure what to do or you have a question about security, even if you don't want to use us as your bank, we're here to help, and we hope you give us a call. Thank you.